Hey all, here are OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Soundcore Liberty Air 2 Pro TWS wireless buds by Anker. This is a company that is pretty well known for making power banks and other useful consumer tech products, pretty popular on Amazon, and this is their latest pair of wireless buds in the Liberty Air lineup. We saw the Air 2 earlier this year, and the Pro Edition basically adds active noise cancellation, promising targeted active noise cancellation, which means there are variable modes of ANC that you can change between depending on what you want to cancel out, whether it's the noises from chattering from people at a cafe or if it's the engines from a car. You can actually fine-tune those levels using the app, which is pretty unique. So this is going to be kind of a flagship grade pair of buds from this company that sells for roughly $130. And in terms of other specs, it does last for around 7 hours per charge for the buds themselves. And then with the battery case, you'll get upwards of 26 hours when you're on the road. So again, that's going to be comparable with AirPods, AirPod Pros, not the longest in the world, but still should suffice for a day or two's use without any problems. The companion app is the most special part about these buds, just like the other options in their collection that we've seen previously. Not only does it allow you to control the variable amount of active noise cancellation, but there's also variable EQ adjustments that you can make to tweak the sound depending on the genre of music that you're listening to. And there's even something called HearID, which we've talked about before as well. Basically, it does a customized sound mapping depending on your ears and how well your listening abilities are. So it's pretty clever. It does basically a hearing test. These are IPX4 rated as well, so they're going to be splash-proof, rain-proof. You can wear these to the gym, they will still survive. It does also offer wireless charging for the battery case. And the drivers here, again, they claim to have over 10 different layers and a pretty bold statement, join the audio revolution. So inside here we have just the buds presented very neatly. Below that we get access to all the user manuals and also a few stickers from them, as well as all the various sizes of tips that you're able to customize for to get a secure lock. Taking a closer look at the design of the battery case, it is definitely pretty distinctive. The texture here is made out of a soft touch rubber, so it's very grippy and easy to hold. It doesn't attract too much fingerprints, but the rubber material here has been coated so that it slightly changes colors depending on how you point it at different light sources. It has almost a gradient finish to it that turns purplish or violet at certain angles, as you can see. Even the USB Type-C port has been accented blue to match the casing. There's a easy pairing key on the side and nothing else basically on the back. We can slide open the door very easily, just pops open to reveal the buds, and you can easily close it as well with a satisfying thump. The sliding mechanism is slightly curved, as you can see there, just looks very elegant and a distinctive design for sure. Buds themselves, I also inverted one of the silicone tips to show you that the accents here on the inside are also orange. And by the way, here's a quick look at the wireless charging in motion. So on any standard Qi mat, you can quickly top it up. The battery case here will start to charge, getting fully juiced up in around an hour or so. We do have quite an angular shape to them, but overall looks quite good. The stem here is touch sensitive, so you're able to do things like play and pause your music, and using the companion app, you can also remap the controls. So by default, they don't have the volume controls activated, but you can definitely bring that back using the software. Has a matte texture overall, and we have some of the microphones that are visible from various angles of the design. The back here is also constructed out of a slightly more coarse, soft touch material that makes it feel kind of grippy, and then the drivers here are kind of visible underneath this very dazzling looking gold-plated grill that looks pretty attractive and clean. Here's a quick size comparison, by the way, with some Apple AirPods regular edition. You can see the size of the stem here are pretty much similar. Same thing goes with the thickness. We're not talking about such a huge difference between the two. So this still feels very lightweight as you're wearing it and quite comfortable even for the full 7 hours of music listening. And the battery case as well, with the regular kind of AirPod case, they are going to be a touch larger, but at the end of the day, they're still easy enough to slide into a pocket and are still going to be much smaller than, say, Powerbeat Pro cases, as you can see there. Now, the buds themselves are, of course, magnetic, so they will attach into the charging case very easily, and they don't really fall loose at all either. So the entire mechanism, as well as the hardware design, just feels very thoughtful and super nicely put together. Taking a closer look at their companion application, since it really is such a strength of these particular buds. You can see the battery percentage remaining on the left and right sides. Otherwise, in terms of the sound, you can tap on the mode here to change between the various modes. So right now we're in the normal mode, but I can go over to the noise cancellation, which is ANC, and under ANC we have the various other elements like transport. As you can see here, it says that targets low-end frequencies like engines and road noise for serene journeys and commutes, versus indoors, this is for cafes. It's going to try to eliminate mid-frequency noises like people's voices a little bit more, and also outdoors, which is going to work better for wind. And finally, under custom, there is a dial that you can also use to change the aspects of the noise cancellation frequency. In terms of the effectiveness of the different modes, I would say that the transport mode does work very well. So when I pop these in and turn them on, almost all of the fan noises in the background, whether it was a car or if it was indoors and the sound generated from a computer, it was basically completely canceled out. And then when it comes to the indoor mode, it also made a slight difference, I found. So compared to the transport mode, it did work a little bit better. If people were talking quietly around me, I was able to hear less of that and concentrate more on just the music. However, just like most pairs of active noise cancelling buds, reduction in mid-frequencies and higher frequencies is still not going to be one of its strong suits. So you can still occasionally hear some conversations leaking in. Otherwise, in terms of the custom mode, this might be the most confusing aspect. I think the UI here could probably be slightly refined, since as far as changing the wheel, I'm not sure whether a particular element here is going to be the strongest or the lowest, or what it's really standing for as I'm rotating it onto these various parts. But having some labels in terms of the strength to really let me better understand this wheel would be awesome. Transparency mode, which is the reverse of ANC, basically magnifying the sounds around you so you're able to have a conversation without even removing these, is also quite effective. On here there's even two modes, one which is a fully transparent mode, and then there is a filtered mode which is only for vocals, which means it will try to emphasize people's voices, but the other sounds will still try to be suppressed and canceled out. And surprisingly, these two modes had the biggest contrast with each other. The vocal mode was super impressive. Even when I was in a kitchen and watching a TV show, turning on this mode basically allowed me to hear the dialogue of the sound coming out from my computer playing that TV show, but everything else for the most part was still filtered out. It made the dialogue really stand out. Anker have even designed a widget for customizing the ANC that you're able to resize and then just pop down onto a home screen without even going into the application. You're able to tap and go between the different modes. Now, aside from those ANC functionality, you're also able to go into the HearID and equalizer, and as I've talked about previously, this is actually a feature that does make a difference. Makes sense because according to the science, it's basically trying to mitigate for areas of weakness in your hearing and then try to turn up other segments which are close to it so that you can still have the same effect. In terms of the default equalizers though, there's also a handful, one which is a signature sound that's been tuned again by the Grammy artists, also sounds pretty clean, and there's also other options as well for acoustic, bass boosted, classical, podcast, flat, jazz, hip hop, so on and so forth. There's almost over 22 options that you can pick from here. Then under controls, we're able to remap, again, what the various things will do for double tapping as well as holding for 2 seconds. So right now it's set to ambient mode, cycling into active noise cancellation and the normal mode. But if I want to replace that with something like volume controls, I can actually tap on here and change the layout as well as the functionality, as you can see there. Whether you want the auto play and pause function, the wearing detection mode to be turned on. So just like before, the software is where Anker truly shines on their wearables. One of the most detailed apps I've ever seen for a pair of buds, and also has one of the highest ratings for a companion app that I've seen as well. Now returning to the actual performance of the sound quality, I have to say it's also phenomenal as expected. In fact, they might be just one of the best sounding pair of buds in this price range, especially with the HearID function. You're able to just detect so much details that are just missing from other headphones. So we have a great punch here in terms of the bass. It's rumbly, it's deep, but it never overpowers the mids or the trebles. Mids are still super clean, filled with details of instruments, and trebles are just crystal clear. They're actually filled with sparkly details and nuances of singers' textures. Doesn't feel tinny, compressed, or cramped at all, and overall just feels like a super wide and immersive soundstage. Paired against their previous generation buds, like the Liberty Air 2s, the non-Pro editions, as well as the other one which is called the Liberty 2 Pros without the Air, so a little bit confusing there in terms of naming. This might sound even a touch better than those other two that we also reviewed and I tried comparing earlier as well. The sound is a bit more dynamic and well balanced in my opinion versus the Air 2s, the standard versions, are a little bit more treble heavy. It works well across any genre of music that you can try listening to. It really is very enjoyable. Now, in terms of the latency, they're great for watching videos as well, such as on YouTube or Netflix. I never encountered things to be out of sync with each other, which is great, although they don't have a low latency gaming mode. So unlike some devices that have that or have aptX low latency, it does mean that there will be a slight more delay when doing a fast action-packed game. However, for other situations like listening to music as well as watching videos, certainly didn't pose any problems. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Air 2 Pros, one of the most fully featured pair of TWS wireless buds that also doesn't really break the bank, looks awesome in terms of its gradient finish for the soft touch rubber casing. Drivers give you a lot of clarity and overall just one of the most satisfying listening experiences to music. So you can check out more details if you're interested, but overall I have high praise for these. If you haven't realized by now, might be worth a closer look. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been Anker's Soundcore Liberty Air 2 Pros.